Top 10 science fiction novels. Before we get started, let me define best for you real fast. In this context, best does not secretly mean my favorite science fiction that I'm calling best because I'm the one presenting. The category of best science fiction includes a lot of works, because that's what science fiction is intended to do: push the boundaries, depict what might happen if things stay the way they are, and encourage you to consider what is feasible. So many science fiction books influence other genres such as horror and others outside of their own. The top 10 science fiction books, in my opinion, have been compiled. Number 10. Ursula K Le Guin's Left Hand of Darkness, 1969. All of Ursula Le Guin's science fiction works are recognizable and unforgettable, so I could genuinely include any of them here. Those Who Walk Away from Omelas was based on an episode of Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, if you know, you know. No reveals. One of the earliest prominent science fiction works to address gender with a practically transgender race, Gethenians, if only for a few days and month, is Left Hand of Darkness. After publishing the novel, Le Guin expressed regret over her choice to use he as the default pronoun for the Gethenians, a near-sexless alien race, and the author's treatment of culture, acceptance, and human feeling were political in 1967. As is the case with much science fiction, the Hugo and Nebula Awards it received for Best Science Fiction Novel of the Year should serve as further evidence that this book is among the best. Number 9. William Gibson's Neuromancer, 1984. The Shockwave Rider by John Brunner is thought to have been the first cyberpunk novel. Although Neuromancer is unquestionably credited with popularizing and defining the subgenre. With a touch of The Matrix thrown in, it has a plot similar to that of Johnny Mnemonic, which was based on a short story also written by William Gibson. The plot centers on a data thief who is on the run after some vengeful ex-employees injured his nervous system. This novel not only won the Gibson Hugo, Nebula, and Philip K. Dick prizes, but it also established the motifs that would be used throughout the genre. I suggest reading my introduction on the cyberpunk genre if you want more information about the genre in general. Number 8. Madeleine L'Engle's 1962 novel, A Wrinkle in Time. With its descriptions of quantum mechanics, time travel, and dimension hopping, this book can be classified as one of those science fiction works that toe the border between science and fantasy. A Wrinkle in Time is frequently children's, especially girls' introduction to science fiction, as Molly Reininger and others have noted. Many women have been motivated to enter the STEM fields as a result of this book, which was developed with middle schools in mind and encourages them to ask, "but what if?" questions. My parents have always been ardent readers of science fiction, so it may not have been my first book in the genre, but it remains the most vivid in my memory. In part because Meg reminded me of myself as a child. Unfashionable with frizzy hair, spectacles, and frequently irritable. It has been turned into 2 motion pictures, a graphic novel, and a play. There is no doubting this book's influence. Number 7. Gethenians from 1961. This is undoubtedly a heavy read that won't be finished in a single afternoon. It tells the tale of a group of scientists stationed on an alien planet submerged in what seems like an endless ocean and was first published in 1961. On the surface, it appears to be your typical tale about planetary science, but Lem took a novel method at the time. He had a more philosophical outlook, believing that the ocean was the sole sentient life on Earth and that the threat came from the minds of the researchers. Due to his imprisonment behind the Iron Curtain, Lem was never as well known in the United States as other authors were, but this does not lessen the extent of his effect. He was once referred to as the most widely read science fiction writer in the world, and he was renowned for effortlessly switching between subgenres. Number 6. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or the Modern Prometheus, 1818. We must discuss this book when discussing cultural touchstones in the science fiction genre. Although it's frequently referred to be the first science fiction book, that's not exactly accurate. She isn't even the first woman to write science fiction. That distinction belongs to Mary Cavendish of The Blazing World. Even so, some 200 years before Jurassic Park, Shelley posed the fundamental question for science fiction as we know it. What happens when man plays God? She produced the original content for so many adaptations and parodies that you could write an entire page on them. Number 5. Octavia E. Butler's 1993 book Parable of DSOWER. The story, which takes place in 2025 when American civilization is imploding owing to climate change, corporate greed, and income inequality. Sound familiar? Is found in the first book of her Earthsea trilogy. A few gated neighborhoods act as safe havens where you are more shielded from poverty, cannibals, and wild dogs. The collapse of these settlements, however, is what drives Lauren into the wilderness, where she establishes a religion and urges people to look to the stars for a new home. It has previously been a New York Times bestseller in 2020, a Nebula Award nominee for Best Novel, and a New York Times Notable Book of the Year. It has also been made into an opera and a graphic novel. Number 4. Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, 1968. This work elaborates on the subject of what makes us human, and if it is even worthwhile to draw that distinction when technology advances sufficiently. It is a predecessor of cyberpunk as a genre. The name wasn't created until 1980. Hire an assassin as he pursues androids that have escaped slavery in search of a life of freedom on Earth. Rick Deckard serves as the protagonist of the book's exploration of these issues. It is yet another significant cultural landmark in the field of science fiction, and the plot features a good blue-collar element. Number 3. Ursula Ways Fullmetal Alchemist, 2002 to 2010. In what ways is alchemy science fiction? Well, I would argue that alchemy was much more than just the pursuit of turning lead into gold, as we have limited the art too, and that was a form of proto-chemistry, origins of the scientific method as we know it today. In addition, this manga series has mechanical prosthetics and is likely also steampunk. It merits a place on the science fiction bookshelf, in my opinion. Additionally, it would be difficult to find an anime or manga enthusiast who hasn't heard of this series. Number 2. BNT by NEDI Okake or AFOMR, 2015 to 2018. African futurism must be discussed in Neni Okorafor's Binti novella trilogy, as it features a young woman named Binti who rejects her tribe's customs to attend university in space. It primarily draws upon African cultures, specifically the Himba peoples of Namibia. And it's at that point that she encounters the terrifying alien race known as the Meduse, which is out to avenge Binti's institution. The following 2 novellas in the series are equally as good as the first book in the series, which won both a Nebula and a Hugo. Number 1. Akira from 1982 to 1990, KTSUHIRO Otomo. How many times have you watched the Akira motorbike slide since the 1988 or 1990 US release of the film? Here is a YouTube video that compiles all of the tributes over the last 30 years if you have no idea what I'm talking about. Even children's media contains it. A character will slide if they are riding a motorcycle. Additionally, it was a manga before it was a movie, a manga that helped launch the Japanese cyberpunk movement. William Gibson was from North America and Katsuhiro Otomo was from Japan. The American anime and manga market probably wouldn't exist the way it does today without Akira. Although there were just a few little dribbles of Japanese cultural imports, Akira unlocked the floodgates. Neon Genesis Evangelion and Ghost in the Shell may not have been as successful without them. Its effects are almost incalculable. Did you like it? Tell us what you think of the video in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting videos.